Hello, welcome back, and we'll continue modeling the low poly castle. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is one of these walls, because we can duplicate it across, and then we'll do one of those square, looks like a spire or some kind of a thing that's sticking up there. So we'll get that figured out. So I think we're going to go ahead and do the wall. So far so good. It's not exactly like it, but that's okay. Like I said, we could have a little artistic freedom with this. So let's go ahead and scale this down to the size of a wall. Let's get a little closer to that wall that we see here. Okay, take a better look at it. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and move it into place. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to move it away from the cylinder. I'm going to kind of scale it. Now when I'm scaling and I'm hitting the R key, scale it. And you can also click on this. You can rotate, you can move with the toolbar here, move, and you can also hit the W for move, the E for rotate, and the R for scale. So I'm going to move that. And notice when I'm actually scaling, I'm going to hit Control A. I'm adding translates to the object, so that can be a problem sometimes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue with adding little subdivisions in there, but right now you can see that I have translate. So I'm going to show you how to clear the history, or excuse me, freeze transformations. So we've got under poly modeling, we've got the center pivot, we've got the delete by type history, and we got freeze transformations. Now when I click on freeze transformations, I usually want to do that for things that I scale and rotate. So I'm going to go ahead and freeze transform those, and you can see right here that they're all zeroed out except for the scale. Okay, just to let you know, if you have scale on as a 1, that's normal. If you put it to 0, it will disappear. Okay, that means it's got no size at all. Okay. All right, you can see that I'm right-clicking, going to selection mode. Also, you can go up to here to select by object type. Okay, so there's the select by object type, and then there's the component mode, which means that each I can go to each component, which is a vertex, face, and edge. That's what makes up this polygon. Okay. All right. Well, you already learned that in other videos, but just keep practicing it. Right click, and you can go to these edges and faces and stuff like that. Okay. So I want to add divisions. I'm going to show you something here. Hit the Q key, so that gets rid of your manipulator. When you hit the Q key, hit the W key, it'll bring it back again. I can add divisions here if I want to. Okay, so I can extrude and create that detail you see here. Okay, all right. Or I can add cubes on there, whichever works best. Okay, so I'm going to show you a way. Excuse me. So I'm basically holding down the shift key. I didn't want to do that. Holding down the shift key and right click, and I can go into insert edge loop. Okay. I can use the offset edge loop tool, which is kind of fun. So if I click on that guy right there, I can do an offset, enter tool, and it kind of does an offset, which is kind of cool, but I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and just create an edge loop. So I'm going to go back to selection. Okay. I'm I'm going to hit the Q key because I'm still in that tool, so I'm going to hit the Q key. So when you're in a tool, you want to get out of the tool, just hit the Q key. Q is just brings it back to selection mode. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key, my right mouse button, and I can go in here to insert edge loop. And so I can click along here if I want to. So I can click along here if I want to do that. Okay. And just make splits all across here, just evenly as I can. That's not perfect, but that's okay. That's fine. And I'm going to go in here to selection mode, hit the Q key again, and I am going to go and select faces in here. Okay. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and do Control E and extrude. So I can bring those up. Okay. Like that. I can even kind of play around with this a little bit, add some depth, or just kind of tweak them in by clicking on the cube. I can tweak those in a little bit, kind of make those look a little more interesting, like that. That looks kind of cool. Okay, so there is our, hit the Q key, Q and then W, and I'm going to rotate. And I'm going to go to the top view and kind of see that I'm not really in the center. If I hit the 4 key, I can get right in the center of that. Now that wall's kind of thick, so I'm going to thin that out a little bit, like that. There we go. So it looks like that. I think that looks pretty good. Now from the front views, take a look at the front view, hit the 4 key, that's wireframe. It's all lined up here, so that looks nice. I like that. All right, that looks good. So the next thing I'm going to do is make the cube box, which I can use over and over again. So I've got one of the walls, right? And then I'm going to make that cube part right here, that little spot. I'm going to call that a spire, another spire, but this one's going to be a cube shaped spire. Okay. So I'm going to bring that in, a cube, and remember we're modeling by primitives. Let's go to the top view, like that, and move that into place, like that. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. Maybe not as big as the circle, but pretty big. Get that against there, like that. And you notice this one also has those little bumps that stick up again. Okay, so we're going to create those as well. Now this one's going to be a little different. From the front view, it's kind of pushed down a little bit. So let me go ahead and move that up. And what I'm going to do, I'm right-clicking, go to Vertex. I'm going to marquee select the top from the front view and move that up. Now, if I look at my image, they look pretty close to being the same height, so I'll go ahead and do that. Or I'll make that one just a little bit shorter, like that, just to kind of vary it a little bit. Okay. All right, so on this one, I'm going to use edge loops again to create my little sections, okay? So I'll show you how to get that working. I'm going to hit the Q key to just selection mode. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key, right mouse button, go to Insert Edge Loop. You're going to be modeling this way a lot. So I'm just going to, when I select it, I'm just holding down the left mouse button and moving it back and forth like that. And just practice this. I'm just going to click. I'm clicking on that outer edge like that. And sometimes you have to practice, so if you mess up and click on the wrong edge and you made a mistake, then just go Control Z, like that. And you can go back and you can try again. Okay? If you make too many lines, it can be a real issue, so just don't do that. Control Z back until you get where you were. Okay? So I want to have 2 lines on each side, 1 line on top, and a line on the other side over here. Okay. All right, so I want to create a couple of those sections, so we'll have 3. So I'm going to click on just over a little bit and click on over a little bit like that, and I kind of made a mistake. So what do I do if I want those to be more centered? So I'm going to Control Z back and just do a better job, or this is even more fun, I'm going to go Shift Z, go back, and show you how to change those. So I'm going to hit the Q key. So let's say I clicked off and I want to move that edge by itself. Well, it's easy to do. I can just double click on it and I can hit the W key and move it over and kind of space that, double click. When I double click one edge, if I go to edge, right, and I double click on that edge, it'll go all the way around. That's called edge loops. That's why we want to have everything, the edge loops are evenly spaced. So let's go ahead and evenly space that. Again, I just double click and it goes all the way around. That means I can just hit the W key and move it where I want it. Okay? Perfect. And then the other side, I want to do the same thing. So I'm going to add another edge loop there. So I'm going to go to selection mode, hit the Q key, and hold down the Shift key and right mouse button, go to Insert Edge Loop Tool. And also going to insert an edge here and edge here. So I'm happier with that, with what I have here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I'm going to go selection mode. I'm going to hit the Q key, and you notice it's still in component mode. So I'm just going to go up to the top here. You can see I can click on that, which is the under the main menu. I'm going to go and select by object type. Okay, now I'm going to right click over, go to face mode, and just like the image or the reference, I'm going to go ahead and select every other one on the top here. Okay, and I am going to extrude. So you can go into your toolbox if you want to and click on extrude, or I can go and do Control E. That's my favorite thing to do. And instead of using the manipulator here, I could go in here to hit the W key and move it up if I want to, right? Or Control A. Let me Control Z back again. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff here. So if I go in here and do Control E, gives me the manipulator. I can scale that up or like that if I want to. I can move it up with my arrow, and then I can go into click on one of the dots here and then go into the center and scale those all in if I want to, which is kind of cool. Okay, so there's a lot of cool things that you can do, which is kind of fun, but I'm just going to leave those the way they are. Now I do notice that they're a little bit chunky in some areas and don't really follow the reference too much. So what I can do is go click off, okay, as long as they're the right height, okay, and I think they're okay. Even if they're not, I can go in there and change them. I can click on all the faces again on the top and move them any way I want. So I can move them up or down or whatever. So if I want to move them up just a little bit, I can do that. And what I want to do is I want to kind of thin those out. They look a little chunky. So from the top view, I am going to go to vertex mode, and I'm just going to move these vertices in a little bit and these vertices out a little bit. And you can see when I'm doing that, it's thinning those pieces out a little bit. If you look in perspective, what I'm doing, I'm just kind of thinning those out a little bit, so they're not as chunky. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to these guys over here and these guys over here. Okay, so that looks a little bit better than what it did. Okay, so when we look farther away, it's starting to look pretty cool. All right, so when I zoom in here, we've got looks like kind of a drawbridge thing going on here with one of those spires that are a little bit smaller. So, and then we have a cube kind of like this one, but with more of those little things on top. Okay, so that's kind of our centerpiece, isn't it? All right, so what we're going to do with that then again is a cube, right? Start with a cube, and I'm going to reuse this. It's going to be kind of fun, so I'm going to reuse this, okay, and make it what I want it to look like, and add to it. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to Control D, duplicate it over. I'm going to Control D, duplicate over the wall. Control D. You can see that you can reuse your stuff. All right. Okay. So what it looks like, I'm going to right click over it and go to selection mode. There we go. Move that in a little bit. Okay, so this looks like it's like as big as two of these together. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top view, and I am going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to move that over like that. Okay. About like that. Let's take a look and see if that looks about right. In perspective mode, there we go. Yeah, it looks about right. Okay. And then I just need to add a couple more of those things on the top. Okay, to finish it off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So from the top view, as long as I'm in object mode, and I can go in here to the top under the main menu and click on object mode, I can go in here and hold the shift key down, right mouse button, and go and select insert edge loop. So I'm going to kind of follow this, okay, these lines here. So I'm going to do this and do this, and I'm going to make one more in the middle here, like that. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to hit the Q key and go to selection mode. And I am going to select my face, and I'm going to select these faces here, this face and this face. I'm going to do a Control E. Now, I'm not sure how far I want to go up. I want to match these, so I'm going to I'm hitting the space bar and going to the front view, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, move around, holding the Alt key and my middle mouse button, and I'm going to move those up so you can follow and move those up and kind of follow with the same height as the other ones. Okay, and that looks pretty good. And if I want to get exactly, I can go to the side view. I'm going to hit the F key. Okay, I'm going to hit the wireframe, which is 4, and this allows me to do exactly, you can see where the other one was. Let me zoom in again. I'm zooming in by moving my middle mouse button, toggling it, or not toggling it, but scrolling it. All right, so there we go. Now they all look the same. That's pretty cool. And then the rest is just duplicating, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go to the front view here. I am going to select the object, the reference. Let me go Control A and just turn that reference off so I can see better what I'm doing. So sometimes the reference gets in the way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let's see, go ahead and select this and duplicate it, Control D and then W. That moves it, allows me to move it. Select this guy right here and Control D and duplicate that. Move that over. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. Control D and move that over like that. But I want to do this one too. Control D. So you can see you make one thing and just reuse it, which is kind of nice. And I'm going to go into object mode up here. Make sure I'm in object mode and move that into place. And so let's take a look at what we have so far. and compared to our reference, it's not too bad. I keep hitting the Windows key by accident instead of the Alt key. Alright, so click off and you can see this is what we have so far. Okay, so this is a good time to go ahead and maybe stop and save our work. So file, save scene as, and we'll save this as number 4. Okay, and we're at about 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.